Hello, my friends. Welcome to the show, Jack Chow on East West with G&E TV. We all know last week at UC Santa Barbara, something not supposed to happen happened. And it's a tragedy. The tragedy is so big that the hangovers are still here. People are still saddened. And the whole country is considering, start to thinking, what caused it? And the consequences, the preventions, the possibilities of doing better. Anyway, so they try to put thoughts from all directions. So today at this show though, we're not digging into the news part. We're talking about if there is anything that we can do and what actually had caused the problem, what could be prevented and what could be caution necessary. So joining me is a big friend of mine, attorney Paul Cheng of Pasadena. So welcome, Paul, to my show.
Hello, Jack.
All right, good. So every time you're here, I try to ask as many questions as possible because time's so limited. Sure. I know how busy you are, right? Okay, good. I understand that you just came out of court. So to make a long story short, what do you think to the nature of what had happened?
Well, it's very unfortunate. There was a student, a very unhappy individual, who subsequently felt that he had to enact what he considered retribution on females in general, but also his roommates as well. And so, unfortunately, he purchased weapons that were legally purchased and went out and murdered people. I mean, that's really the summary of the situation.
All right. Okay.
Unfortunately, the police were actually called to his home. His parents were very concerned about what happened, and the police weren't able to, at least at that time, ascertain any reason to detain him.
All right. Okay. Paul, when this incident happened, I see three different categories. Number one category is the early prevention before it's too late. Okay. Number two is the mental health issue. Number three is the gun control issue. So shall we please touch them one by one?
Sure.
Okay. To the story, the whole story, I learned in a very early stage, some sheriff deputies did visit the house.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. Yet they didn't search the house. Right? For a time, he said, the killer said that I thought for some time it was over because I knew they were going to search the room, but they didn't.
Right.
So, does that sound a failure to you?
Well, I mean, obviously hindsight is always 20/20. It's always easy to say that if we didn't do this action or this action that it was a failure. I think that if the police followed proper police protocol, really that's what we can really look for in the police. At the end of the day, because there's a human factor involved, the only thing that we can be able to do is to create a system.
All right.
And to require the police to follow that system. Obviously there's some leeway, but in terms of what the police have done, they're going to conduct an internal investigation. They're going to see if police protocol was followed. I believe the outcome is going to be that they followed the police protocol for that specific county. Can it be improved? It can always be improved. I mean, if we say that the police act perfectly, we'd be lying to ourselves. At the same time, it is unfortunate because, again, if the police did search, they would have found weapons.
Well, yeah.
But at the same time, if the parents would have said to the police, please search my son's room, please do so.
All right.
We feel that there are weapons in there. I don't think the police would have said no. So I think the police were presented with a situation where the parents felt very concerned. We're very concerned about our son. The police go to the location, speak to the child. He's not really a child, but to the son. They talk to him. based upon their initial investigation, they don't think further investigation is necessary. However, we don't know the other side, right? And if the parents didn't, you know, if the parents didn't ask the police to, you know, search the room.
If we compare the necessity of police searching the room and the fact that the parents should have requested, I believe, or, well, of course, I know nothing about that area though, who has more responsibility to search?
Well, every person has a constitutional right of privacy. So obviously there are exceptions to that right of privacy. One of them being if the police feel there's imminent danger, or if the police see something, right? I mean, there's, you know, if they see a weapon. If the police haven't seen any of those, right, where it's merely, hey, my son's feeling really depressed, something's not right, that may not rise to the level that the police feel they need to search. And frankly, if they did search and they weren't allowed to do so, it's a constitutional violation, right? They have no subpoena.
I see.
Right? They have, right? There is no search warrant. And police take what some states call a castle. They actually call your home a castle. And what that means is that the police, out of all the places that they can search, they protect the castle as much as possible, which is your right, your place
privacy.
to stay.
All right, I see.
And so, because courts have considered it, and some courts even call it, you know, when it relates to the home, they call it the castle doctrine, meaning that if you enter into somebody's home
can't stay on your ground,
and they didn't allow you to come, they can shoot you.
They can shoot you.
Right?
Stay on your ground.
Right. Called the castle doctrine. And so it really shows that of all the rights that are out there, the right of privacy is very high, and when it relates to the home, it's even higher, I would say.
All right, that's understood. Oh, by the way, the reason I have to ask Paul about it because he is the reliable source of answers for being a successful attorney for all these years, more than 20 years, and he holds a huge office in Pasadena, and he's the renowned non-winning attorney, I call him. Anyway, I'm asking about the castle doctrine, of course, does have to say, right?
Sure.
But the second question is also here, if the police officers, I mean the sheriff, in this case the sheriff deputies, right? Visited the room, visited the house, which is an apartment, right? The fact they paid him a visit because they felt it suspicious, right? They didn't search the house. However, can they put him on a watch list so that they can later discover something wrong? With today's net technology, it's not a big problem, isn't it?
Well, I did want to clarify a couple things. First of all, you had previously said I've practiced for 20. I've actually practiced for 10, so half of that, right? And in terms of the specific ability of the police to internally put a watch list, obviously that's possible, and many departments do that. You know, if they've gone out to your house multiple times. But the police really weren't called to that house multiple times, right? They were called to the home with a worry by the parents. And obviously the police, if they see that there is immediate danger, not to other people, but to the suspect, they can put a hold on him, meaning that they can actually take him away for a psych evaluation. They can be able to hold him for several days. But the police at the time ascertained that that wasn't the case. Now, I think your point is, did the police make a mistake? I don't know, but what I would say is that the evaluation of the system should always be examined, because we're not in any way, the police could be 100% right in what they did, but still that could have occurred, right? So what that means is that the system may be flawed, but that doesn't mean the individual police officer were flawed.
I see what you mean,
And if the system is flawed, I think it's incumbent upon us to try to examine the system and improve the system. But obviously it's very difficult, because what ends up occurring is when things are outcome determinative, meaning that if you see someone and there's death involved, people, when they retroactively look back, say, well, the police officers must be at fault. And what that ultimately does, it creates a situation where everybody is now fighting for themselves and not fighting to improve the system. That's what I worry about. I actually worry about attorneys, about lawsuits,
Yeah.
about people saying that that everybody else was at fault. And what ultimately may happen is that the system may not be improved, and this may occur again.
All right. Sounds very reasonable. What is the relationship between his manifesto and the possible prevention?
Well, that's the thing is, again, we have freedom of speech. We have a right to speak our minds. There are many people out there on a daily basis that basically say that they want to do a lot of evil things.
I see.
And if we were going to do that, essentially arrest people proactively for things that they haven't done, is that permissible and allowable? I think the U.S. Supreme Court has dealt with these issues and consistently deals with those issues, because now, unlike when we were much younger, there's the internet, which means that one picture or one idea can now be distributed across the world.
Yeah, with the blink of seconds.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the question then becomes, is a person's ideas or thoughts so important that they're so important that once they're distributed across the internet, they can be arrested? I think the U.S. Supreme Court is right? I think that they basically say that prospectively arresting somebody for actions that they've not done, where essentially law enforcement has to guess, is wrong. Retrospectively,
retrospectively is also wrong.
Right.
Because,
So prospectively is wrong, but retrospectively looking back, and once a crime is committed, that the police are able to act
should have, right?
with essentially broader powers. I think the U.S. Supreme Court is getting it right, and I don't believe that they will change that policy, at least for the near future. Now, of course, the internet has changed things within 20 years.
I see.
Definitely think the internet or technology will change over the next 20 years as well.
All right, good, very good. Thank you for that analysis. That's very thorough, honestly. So we'll be right back. Stay with us.